I want to tell you something that took me decades to fully understand. Most people who are broke are not broke because they do not earn enough money. They are broke because of what they do with the money they already have. I have sat across from men earning $400,000 a year who had less real wealth than a school teacher in Omaha making $52,000. I've seen it so many times it no longer surprises me. What surprises me now is how few people ever stop to ask the right question. The question is not, how do I make more? The question is, where is it all going? Because here is the truth. Most people have a hole in their bucket. They pour money in at the top and watch it drain out the bottom, and they never once bend down to look at where the leak is. They assume the answer is a bigger bucket, more income, more hustle, more side projects, more complexity. But the bucket is the wrong metaphor entirely. The real problem is that most people are not building at all. They are consuming. And there's a world of difference between a consumer and a builder. A consumer takes resources and turns them into experiences and objects and status signals and momentary pleasure. A builder takes the same resources and turns them into engines. Engines that run while you sleep. Engines that compound while you age. Engines that eventually make the income question irrelevant because the engine itself generates more than you could ever spend. I have spent my entire life building engines. And the single most important thing I learned not from books from living is that every dollar you spend on certain things is not just a dollar spent. It is a dollar that will never become 10. It is a dollar that will never become 100. It is a soldier you have executed before the battle even began. Today I'm going to tell you about 5 specific things, 5 categories of spending that will quietly destroy your ability to build wealth. Not dramatically, not all at once, quietly. Over years and decades, these 5 things drain the engine before it ever gets started, and the brutal truth is that society actively encourages you to buy every single one of them. The advertising industry spends billions of dollars a year making sure you feel incomplete without them. Your neighbors buy them. Your colleagues buy them. Social media is an endless parade of people performing their consumption of these exact things. And I am here to tell you, as an old man who has watched this game play out over 70 years, that the people performing their consumption are not the people building real wealth. They never were. Pay close attention. Let us begin. I call these the 5 wealth killers. They are simple to identify. They are brutally hard to resist. Not because they are hidden or complicated, but because they are wrapped in some of the most powerful psychological packaging ever designed. Each one offers you something real: pleasure, status, comfort, relief. And each one takes something from you that you cannot see in the moment. What it takes from you is time. Specifically, it steals the compounding time that would have turned your present sacrifice into your future freedom. I want you to understand something before we go through these 5 things. I am not asking you to be miserable. I am not asking you to live like a monk. I lived well my whole life. I enjoyed my life. The point is not deprivation. The point is awareness. The point is knowing exactly what each purchase actually costs. Not the sticker price, the real price, which includes all the future value that dollar would have created if you had deployed it differently. Once you know the real price, you can make an informed decision. Right now, most people are making these decisions blind. Let us fix that. Asch. The first wealth killer. I call it the status vehicle. Let me paint you a picture I have seen play out more times than I can count. A young man gets his first real job. Maybe he is 24, 25 years old. He has been working hard, living lean, and now he has a salary that feels substantial compared to what he was making before. And the first thing I mean, within weeks. The very first major financial decision this young man makes is to go buy a new car. Not because his old car does not run, not because he has any practical need for a new vehicle. He buys it because he wants to feel like he has arrived. He wants to pull into the parking lot at work and feel the looks. He wants to drive past a certain girl's house. He wants the physical, tangible, metal, and leather proof that he is doing well. I understand this impulse completely. What I cannot excuse is the mathematics of it. Here is what actually happens when you buy a $45,000 car at age 25 with financing. First, that car loses roughly 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. You have just lost $9,000 in a single afternoon. Then over the next 5 years, that car will depreciate to roughly 30% of its original value. You are not buying an asset. You are renting a feeling. You are paying full purchase price for something that will be worth $13,000 by the time you own it outright. But that is only the beginning. If instead of that car payment, let us say $600 a month, you had invested that same $600 every single month from age 25 to age 65 at a reasonable historical market return of 10% annually, you would have accumulated approximately $3.8 million. A car, a single car, versus $3.8 million. That is not a small decision. That is one of the most consequential financial decisions of your entire adult life, and most people make it without a single calculation. They make it on emotion, on ego, on the advice of an advertisement. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying never buy a car. I drove a used Volkswagen for years. Then I drove used Cadillacs I bought at auction. The car gets you from one place to another. That is its function. The moment you start paying a premium, not for transportation, but for the impression the car creates in the minds of people who do not actually care about you, that is the moment you have made a status purchase, not a practical one. And here is the deeper truth about status purchases that nobody tells you. The people you're trying to impress are not impressed. They are busy thinking about their own status. The admiration you imagine you are purchasing is almost entirely fictional. The guy who sees you pull up in a BMW does not think, wow, that person is successful. He thinks, I wish I had that. Then he goes back to thinking about himself. The return on investment for status is close to zero. The return on investment for deployed capital is everything. Here's your assignment for this first wealth killer. The next time you are considering a major purchase, a car, a watch, a piece of clothing, I want you to stop and ask yourself one honest question. Am I buying this because I need it, or because of how I think it will make me look? Write the answer down. Then calculate what that money would be worth in 30 years at 10% annually. Look at that number. Then decide. The second wealth killer. I call it the lifestyle inflation trap. There's a psychological mechanism in the human brain that I find absolutely fascinating and absolutely dangerous. Scientists call it hedonic adaptation. I call it the treadmill that goes nowhere. Here's how it works. When you get a raise, when you get a bonus, when your income jumps, your brain experiences a genuine surge of satisfaction. You feel like you have won. You feel like you have made real progress. And then within about 3 to 6 months, that new income level becomes the baseline. It no longer feels like progress. It feels normal. And so the brain begins searching for the next surge. And the easiest, fastest, most socially acceptable way to generate that surge is to upgrade your lifestyle. Bigger apartment, nicer restaurant, better clothes, first-class flight instead of coach. Each upgrade delivers a real hit of satisfaction. Each upgrade also quietly raises your cost of living, your minimum acceptable standard of living permanently. And here's the trap. Every dollar of lifestyle inflation is a dollar that stops compounding. Let me show you what I mean with a real number. Say you get a $20,000 raise at age 30, you have two choices. Choice A, you spend it. You upgrade your apartment by $800 a month. You eat out more. You take better vacations. Within a year, you have absorbed the entire raise into your lifestyle. Your net worth position has not changed. You feel slightly more comfortable, but you're building nothing. Choice B, you invest it. You live exactly as you lived before the raise. You put that $20,000 into the market and you do not touch it. By age 60 at 10% annually, that single raise, one decision made once, has become $349,000. The raise did not change. What changed is what you did with it. I have seen this pattern destroy more potential wealth than almost anything else. A person makes more money every year for 20 years. At the end of 20 years, they have almost nothing saved, because every raise, every bonus, every windfall was immediately absorbed by a corresponding upgrade in lifestyle. They worked harder and harder to stay in exactly the same place. This is the treadmill. The speed increases, but you do not move. The single most powerful wealth-building habit I ever developed, and I developed it young, and I kept it my whole life, was a violent resistance to lifestyle inflation. When my income grew, my savings rate grew. My lifestyle was largely fixed. I still live in the house I bought in 1958 for $31,500. People ask me why. The answer is simple. It makes me happy. Everything I could possibly want is in it. And every dollar I did not spend on a bigger house or a yacht or a private island has been working for me for 6 decades. The math of that decision is almost incomprehensible. Here's your assignment. Next time your income increases, raise, bonus, side project, anything, I want you to commit in advance to saving at least 50% of that increase before it ever touches your lifestyle. Do it before you spend a dollar of it. Set up an automatic transfer. Make the decision before the money arrives so your brain does not have a chance to negotiate with you. Shh. The third wealth killer. I call it the debt furniture. I want you to imagine two people. Both are 28 years old. Both earn $65,000 a year. Person A has $22,000 in consumer debt credit cards, a personal loan, maybe a buy now, pay later balance on a couch and a television. The average interest rate across all of this is about 19%. Person B has zero consumer debt. Same income, same age, same city. Now here is the question. How different are these two people's financial lives? Most people would say moderately different. The real answer is incomprehensibly different. Person A is running a race with a 250-pound pack on their back every single month before they can deploy a single dollar toward building anything. They're paying the bank 19% on every dollar they borrowed. They're paying compound interest in reverse. Instead of compound interest working for them, it is working against them with the same mechanical, unstoppable force. There is a rule I've talked about for years. If you lose 50% of your capital, you need 100% just to break even. Consumer debt works on an even more brutal version of this principle. Every year you carry a 19% interest rate, you are starting 19% behind before you do anything else. To outrun that, with investments you would need to generate returns greater than 19% annually, which over a sustained period is essentially impossible. You cannot out-invest high-interest debt. It cannot be done. This means person A is not just standing still. They are moving backward every month. And here's what makes us so psychologically vicious. The things that created the debt, the couch, the television, the vacation on a credit card, the handbag, those things are gone. The couch is depreciated. The vacation is a memory. The handbag is last season. But the debt remains. You are making payments on ghosts. You are paying for experiences and objects that no longer exist. That is the specific brutality of consumer debt. It is not like a mortgage, which at least purchases an asset that has some residual value. Consumer debt finances consumption, and consumption, by definition, destroys value. I have a very simple rule about debt. I am willing to borrow money to buy productive assets. Assets that generate returns greater than the cost of borrowing. I am never willing to borrow money to consume. Never, because there is no asset on the other side of the transaction. There is only the debt. Let me give you a number that should stop you cold. The average American household carries over $10,000 in credit card debt. At 19% interest, that costs $1,900 a year just in interest. $158 a month, and payments that build absolutely nothing. Now here is the flip side. $158 a month invested from age 25 to 65 at 10% grows to just over $1 million. That is what consumer debt actually costs, not $10,000, $1 million. And people put a flat screen television on a credit card. Here's your assignment. Tonight I want you to write down every single debt you carry, every balance, every interest rate. Rank them from highest interest rate to lowest, and point every available dollar, every dollar that is not going to essential living costs or long-term investment, at that highest interest rate debt first. Destroy it. That is the single highest guaranteed return available to you. Paying off a 19% credit card is a guaranteed 19% return. No investment in history has delivered that reliably. Start there. Duff. The fourth wealth killer. I call it the subscription creep. This one is smaller than the others. That is precisely what makes it so dangerous. Let me explain what I mean. I have been in business for over 70 years. And in that time, I have learned a fundamental truth about how wealth is destroyed. It is almost never one catastrophic decision. It is 1,000 small decisions. Each one seems trivial. Each one seems reversible. Together, they constitute a permanent drain on your ability to build. The subscription economy is the most perfectly engineered version of this trap that has ever existed. Think about what subscriptions are designed to do. They're designed to convert large, one-time decisions into small, recurrent payments that fall below your threshold of conscious attention. Your brain is wired to notice a $200 purchase. Your brain does not notice a $14.99 monthly charge buried in a bank statement. You signed up for it 6 months ago. Use it twice a month. You are not going to cancel it because the cognitive work of canceling feels like more effort than $14.99 is worth. This is by design. The entire subscription business model is built on the reliable human tendency to underestimate recurring costs and overestimate how much we will use something. Let me show you what this looks like in aggregate. The average American household now carries somewhere between 12 and 20 active subscriptions, streaming services. Gym memberships they rarely use, software apps, monthly boxes of things they do not need, premium tiers of services that would be fine at the free level. Add it up. We are talking about $300, $400, $500 a month in subscription costs, much of which delivers almost no real value to the person paying it. $400 a month is $400 a year, $400 to $800 a year from age 30 to 65, invested at 10%, is $1.5 million. $1.5 million spent on services that are largely forgotten before the statement even arrives. But here's what I find most interesting about subscription spending psychologically. It is consumption that has been deliberately made painless to sustain and painful to stop. They make it easy to sign up in 30 seconds. They make it require 3 phone calls and 2 password resets to cancel. They send you an email when you try to cancel offering you a discount to stay. They have spent enormous engineering resources making sure that the moment of cancellation, the moment that would benefit you, is as difficult and friction-filled as possible. You are fighting against an army of product designers whose entire job is to keep your money flowing to them automatically, forever, with zero effort from them and without ever triggering your conscious attention. To win this fight, you have to be deliberate. You have to be active in a game that is designed to reward your passivity. Here's your assignment for this one, and I want you to do it this week. Open your bank statement and your credit card statement. Go through every single line. Highlight every recurring charge. For each one, ask yourself, would I pay this today if I had to actively choose to pay it? Not would I keep it if canceling were easy. Would I pay it today by active choice? If the answer is no, cancel it. You are not losing something valuable. You are not losing something valuable. You are reclaiming soldiers that have been captured. Fifth, wealth killer. This is the one I feel most strongly about. I call it the illusion of the good life, and it is the most expensive thing most people in this country will ever buy. Here is what I mean. There is an image of the good life that has been sold to every generation since the 1950s. The house with the big yard, the 2 cars in the garage, the kitchen remodel, the nice neighborhood, the private schools, the vacations. And I am not here to tell you these things are bad. Some of them are genuinely good. The question that almost nobody asks is whether you are buying the good life because it actually makes you happy, or because you have been sold an image and you are trying to inhabit it. Here is a thought experiment I want you to sit with. Most people, if you ask them what they want, will describe something that looks like a version of a magazine spread. A nice home. Nice things. Experiences worth photographing. A life that looks like success from the outside. And then when you ask them what actually makes them happy, I mean genuinely, at a deep level, happy, they describe something almost entirely different. Time with people they love, work that feels meaningful, health, autonomy, freedom from anxiety. The 2 lists almost never match, and most people spend their entire financial lives pouring money into the first list while the second list stays mostly unfunded. They work 60 hours a week to pay for a house with rooms they never use. They buy things to impress people they do not even like. They take on debt for experiences that produce photographs rather than memories. This is the deepest poverty I know. It is not a shortage of money. It is a misalignment between what you spend on and what you actually value. And it is extraordinarily expensive. The average American home is now over 2,500 square feet. In 1950, it was 983 square feet. The family size has shrunk. The house has tripled. Who lives in all those rooms? The mortgage does. You are working extra years of your life to heat and cool and furnish and maintain space that serves no actual function in your life. I have lived in my house in Omaha for over 60 years. It is a comfortable, normal house. I do not need more. And every dollar I did not spend on more house, more stuff, more performance of affluence, is a dollar that went into the engine that eventually made the original income question irrelevant. I want to tell you something personal here. I have known men, and I mean specifically men I have sat across from, eaten with, done business with, who had everything the good life catalog promised: the compound, the plane, the art collection, the wine cellar, the cars, and they were some of the most quietly miserable people I have ever encountered, because they bought the image and somewhere along the way lost themselves inside it. The image required maintenance. The image required performance. The image required keeping up with others who had bought the same image, and every year the cost of maintaining the image grew, and the gap between who they actually were and who they were performing grew with it. That gap is a form of poverty no amount of money can cure. Here's your assignment. I want you to take 30 minutes this week, 30 minutes alone, no phone, and write down the 10 things that have made you most genuinely happy in the last year. Not the things you posted about, not the things you spent the most money on, the things that actually created the feeling. Then look at your spending from the last 3 months. What percentage of it was aimed at those 10 things? I suspect for most people the answer will be alarming, and that alarm is valuable. That alarm is information. Use it. Chopped. Now I want to tell you something that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with wealth. I want you to imagine yourself at 95 years old. You are sitting in a chair, you are comfortable, you are not in pain, you have time to think, and you are looking back at the full arc of your life, not the spreadsheet of your life, not the net worth statement, the life itself, the mornings, the relationships, the choices, the person you became. What is that person proud of? What does that person wish had been different? I have had the extraordinary privilege of knowing many very old, very wealthy people. And I have had this conversation or version of it more times than I can count. And I want to tell you something with complete certainty: not a single one of them. Not one looked back wishing they had worked more hours or bought more things. Not one. What they talked about were people, the quality of their relationships. Whether they had been truly known and truly loved by someone, whether they had given their real self to the people around them, or whether they had given them a performance, whether they had been present for the things that mattered. I've heard men say, powerful men, accomplished men, that they had everything they set out to acquire and they were alone inside it. Because the acquisition had taken everything: the time, the presence, the willingness to be vulnerable, and the people who would have loved them had eventually stopped waiting. This is the deepest financial truth I know. The goal is not to die rich. The goal is to live fully. The goal is to build enough financial freedom that your time belongs to you so that you can spend it on what actually matters. Money is not the destination. Money is the thing that buys back your time. Your time is the only real asset you have, and you cannot get more of it. Not at any price. So when you spend your money on things that do not serve your actual values, you are not just spending money, you are spending time. You are spending the years you worked to earn that money. You are spending pieces of your one irreplaceable life. That is the real cost. That is the number I want you to carry with you. Let me bring this home. 5 wealth killers: the status vehicle, the car, the watch, the purchase that performs success instead of building it, the lifestyle inflation, trapped the invisible treadmill that absorbs every raise and leaves you running in place, the debt furniture payments on ghosts, compound interest working in reverse, the 19% hole in your bucket, the subscription creep, the army of small recurring charges designed by brilliant engineers to remain invisible while they drain you continuously, the illusion of the good life, spending your entire financial life buying an image that does not match your actual values. These 5 things are not exotic. They're not complicated. You recognized every single one of them as I described it. And that recognition is the problem, because you can recognize them and still do them. That is the trap. Knowledge does not protect you. Only action does. So here is my final instruction to you. Do not let this be another video you watched and thought about and moved on from. Information without action is useless. Wisdom without execution is vanity. Pick one. Just one of these 5 wealth killers. The one that is doing the most damage in your life right now. And today, not this week, not when you have time. Today, take one concrete step to reduce its hold on you. Cancel one subscription. Transfer one raise into savings before you spend it. Make one minimum payment above the minimum on your highest interest debt. Drive your current car for one more year. Sit in the quiet and write down what actually makes you happy. One step. Today. The door to financial freedom is not locked. It has never been locked. The only question is whether you will walk through it, or whether you will stand at the threshold, watching videos, acquiring knowledge, feeling ready, and never quite moving. Most people will not move. I have watched this for 70 years. Most people will not move. I have watched this for 70 years. Most people will not move. You are not most people. Now get to work. That's all. Thanks for watching.